Closing arguments today in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial, with the defense team driving home its central argument that Sean Combs most certainly committed some crimes, just not the ones he's been charged with. The defense summation lasted just over 4 hours. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, struck a sarcastic and at times mocking tone, suggesting the trial was a farce. He acknowledged Combs' physical abuse against Cassie Ventura, the mogul's former girlfriend and a key government witness. But he reiterated that Combs is charged with sex trafficking and racketeering, not with domestic violence. Agnifilo went even further. He described the couple's relationship as a, quote, great modern love story. As for that infamous 2016 video you're looking at right now, showing Combs violently beating Ventura in a hotel lobby, Agnifilo suggested it was merely an argument over Combs' cell phone, not because Cassie Ventura was trying to escape one of his infamous freak-off parties. He said Ventura was actually the winner in this whole ordeal, saying she was, quote, sitting somewhere with $30 million, a reference to her settlements from Sean Combs and the hotel where that video was shot. That comment got a scathing response and rebuttals from the prosecutors, insisting that Ventura was no winner, but rather beaten black and blue in the incident, adding the fight was not about a cell phone. The jury is now set to figure all this out. They're going to be charged on Monday morning, get the jury instructions from the judge, and then they will begin deliberating right away. If Sean Combs is convicted on all of these charges, he could be put away for life. Joining us to break it all down is Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor and Law and Crime Network host, and Robert Hirschhorn, lawyer and trial and jury consultant. Great to have both of you with us. I nearly spit out my coffee when I heard that the defense attorneys called it was a great modern love story between Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs after listening to her sworn testimony.
Well, that's a nightmare if that's the great modern love story. Look, there are people who will say he minimized too much. He minimized everything that was going on. It was had an explanation for all of the underlying crimes as part of racketeering. I will tell you there were some wins here. Now, what do I mean by that? I think he made a really good point by saying this case is about the text messages, and you and I have talked before. The text messages of Cassie, the text messages of Jane, the text messages of Mia, they're problematic. It doesn't make it a clear-cut case when they're praising Sean Combs or loving Sean Combs or setting up these sexual events where he said today, let me get this straight. So some events are consensual, and then all of a sudden it goes up 100 to sex trafficking. That's a big jump. The problem is what happened in rebuttal. The prosecution said, so you want us to believe, the defense wants you to believe that Cassie wanted to be urinated on, that these women wanted to be beaten and then have to engage in these sexual events. They wanted to have UTIs and to keep doing this. And by the way, you mentioned it before, Cassie settled her lawsuit. Mia settled the mediation. What is their incentive to testify and put their character and potentially risk perjury now? What is their goal in testifying in a case? And I have to say, since they have the prosecution, that's the last thing the jury heard. You wonder if that's what they're going to be resonating with.
You thought it was powerful. Robert, you think Sean Combs is a despicable guy, but he's not guilty. Why?
I think the government's overcharged him. Elizabeth, by the way, thanks for having me back. I mean, look, the things he did were outrageous, but his conduct is freako conduct. It's not RICO conduct. His conduct in terms of the trafficking, he's just a swinger. He's not a trafficker. Here's the point. Do we really want the government kind of coming in, the United States government coming into our bedrooms, into our relationships? I don't think any of us want that. Do I think he's guilty of a lot of things? Absolutely, but not RICO, not the sex trafficking. They overcharged him.
You know, that was something you said at the beginning of this trial, Jesse. You don't feel as sure any longer that
Here's what I think. He's facing 5 charges. 95% he gets convicted on the transportation to engage in prostitution charges. I think that is a slam dunk. I'm 60-40 on racketeering. Why? While the prosecution has done a great job at establishing and checking off the boxes with a number of the underlying crimes the prosecution needs to prove too, what Agnifilo did
We had a whole host of employees and assistants who said, I went and bought his drugs for him.
Sure.
I went and covered the hotel room in sheets and towels and stocked it with crates of baby oil for him. I went and hid Cassie in a hotel after you beat her up so that she could recover from the black and blue marks. I didn't know what was going on in those, behind closed doors.
And they said Christina Quorum, as chief of staff, saw all the text messages. It's impossible they didn't know what was going on. Having said that, what Agnifilo did do well today, he goes, where is the criminal enterprise? Not one person testified they were part of a criminal enterprise.
Right.
And for racketeering conspiracy, while you don't need an agreement, there does need to be a sense everybody on the same page. Was it established based on the testimony? Was it established based on the text messages? Maybe, but that may be something that hangs up the jury. And with sex trafficking, it all comes whether or not they're willing participants in all of this.
Robert, do you think it was a mistake for the defense to have literally no case, that after all these weeks of listening to the prosecution's case, the defense didn't call a single person to the witness stand?
Yeah, I do. From a jury perspective, I do, because the jury, they're human beings. They want to hear from both sides, even though the judge tells them the defendant doesn't have a burden of proof. I think part of that decision the defense made was based on the appellate issues. You don't want to give the appellate court a reason to not reverse a conviction because you got up and put on testimony that obviously wasn't believed. But look, here's the thing, Elizabeth and Jesse. The prosecutor, the assistant United States attorney, in her rebuttal said something that was fascinating that I think the jury's going to take with them this weekend. She called Diddy's conduct inexcusable behavior. Guess what? It was. But when a person's a rapist, do you call that conduct inexcusable? When a person is a mafia boss, do you call his conduct inexcusable? A drug dealer? No. It's criminal conduct, not inexcusable. Inexcusable conduct, I think, is the kind that jurors could very well decide not guilty based on this evidence.
Do you agree?
I think she did a great job of establishing without whatever language she actually used. At the end of the day, what escalates this beyond domestic violence is the sex workers. What escalates it is the violence. What escalates it is the drugs. What escalates it is the use of staff and bodyguards. And whether the defense wants to say, oh, he didn't pay $100,000 to take that tape of Cassie Ventura because he didn't want his private information. Is the jury going to believe that, or going to think he didn't want to get arrested? He was trying to cover up a crime. I have no idea what this jury's thinking. I will tell you this much. I think they're going to deliberate for quite some time on a case like this.
How long do you think it's going to be?
I know the holiday weekend, they want to get out of there, but I think they're going to take, literally to the last minute. They have to. This is a complicated case.
They're not going to go over the 4th of July holiday.
Unlikely, but you never know. This is, so much information, so many elements, complicated charges, a lot of evidence. They may.
Robert, how many days?
I think I agree with Jesse. It's going to be a lengthy deliberation. It wouldn't surprise me if there's at least one or two jurors that say, I'm sorry, I don't think this evidence rises to these particular offenses. I don't think they're going to go past 4th of July. I think if you get a couple of jurors that really hold their ground, the judge may very well be declaring a mistrial.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. All right, Jesse Weber, Robert Hirschhorn, thank you both so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.